G'day everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Melbourne Pro Punters panel. To kick off the official start of the Spring Carnival, we're out here at Caulfield. In the lead up to Caulfield Guineas Day this Saturday. Darren Potter.
Anthony Jupp.
Dan Kelly.
Hello Juppy.
How are you, mate?
Hello Potts. Good to see you.
A very, very busy weekend. Whoever thought it was a good idea to have 3 meetings, 3 city meetings at 3 separate tracks in 3 days, obviously doesn't have much idea about the game because it was punishing, to say the least. And I think it really affected the crowds. I thought it was going to be a reasonable meeting yesterday there at Turnbull Stokesay, and there was more people here at Caulfield on Saturday.
That is a shock. That's a real shock.
Than in the betting ring here, which is where we are. There was more people in the betting ring here on Saturday than what there was there yesterday. So
you would have thought there'd been a good crowd out there.
Yeah, maybe the whole footy thing took over and all the, I think Saturday was a big day for a lot of people. They had to butter up again on the Sunday, go to the races,
And I worked at Bendigo on Thursday, and I stayed up there on Thursday night, and I drove home on Friday, drove back to Melbourne on Friday morning, and the amount of cars with boats and caravans and I know the Deniliquin Ute Mus was on. The amount of people that were driving out of Melbourne on Friday morning because it was the start of the long weekend, I think that told the tale too. So I've got
and the public holiday too, so he made it a long weekend in the Sunday. And I don't know if they ever thought it was a Friday day meeting there be better maybe than the Sunday. You don't want a double header going into Moonee Valley too, I suppose. We used to do that in the old days.
We did, yeah. They were long days.
They were a nightmare.
There's a couple of solutions that I've got, but it means actually everyone cooperating, which, as we know, never happens in racing or sport or anything. Start the AFL Grand Final at 5 o'clock on the Saturday, which means that you can keep the tradition of starting the AFL during the day. But that means that the halftime entertainment would be in the darkness, and you play the second half of the game under lights. And that means you could run the Turnbull Stakes Day with the Epsom and Metrop Day on the Saturday. You could run it at, say, 2:30, which would give the corporates plenty of time to get from Flemington across to the MCG to watch the footy. And it also means that Flemington could do what Caulfield did last week, because the GWS Bulldogs game, when that was on here last week, the members bar here and the other members bar above the owners, the old betting ring there, they were both packed. There was a heap of people in there watching the footy, and they just kept those open, and Flemington would have the option to do the same. The other thing that they could potentially look at is, I'll give a shout out to whose idea this was. Hello, Brian Mann, leading Rails bookie. He said, why don't we run the Moonee Valley meeting on the Thursday night and run the Flemington meeting on the Friday, which is a public holiday, and have that as a big build-up.
Well, it was the first public holiday though, was it? Whether it's going to stay a public holiday or not?
Well,
that's the thing, isn't it?
That's the thing. It depends on the change. If we have a change in government, it might change.
I mean, it's a big success, obviously, but for business, obviously, very hard on businesses having to play the double rates and everything like that. But anyway.
So that was the weekend. It was a very busy weekend.
A great weekend of footy.
Yeah, that was
some great racing too. I mean, apart from the big, you had to do 3 meetings like Potts and yourself.
No, I made the mistake of trying to do it last year, DK, and this year I just thought, I remember how flat I was at the end of it, and I felt like I didn't do any of it justice. So this year I put all my effort into the focus into Flemington and just pick bits and pieces out of the others. I did 3 races at Moonee Valley on Friday night, 4 on Saturday, and I've got through. I feel quite fresh. Okay. But one of our other mates, Big Trev, he did all 3 meetings and he was completely gone yesterday.
Well, I know I'm completely gone this morning. Not as gone as what I was last week, but
still gone. You were talking in ribbons when I left.
It was braille by that stage.
I'm not sure what the solution is, but I think the racing administrators should recognise that it just doesn't quite feel right having the 3 city meetings. That sort of makes me think that's why it was probably pretty quiet at Flemington yesterday. Like there's no. It takes away from a meeting like that feeling special when you've got two others on the same weekend.
No, you used to have a Mornington meeting. I mean, the MRC owns that day, obviously, don't they? I mean, you can. They'd be a standalone country meeting in Ballarat or something. I'd love a day like that, I suppose. But
you'd remember back in the day, DK started off at Seymour before it went to Mornington.
Yeah, well, there you go.
They used to get a few people at Mornington, but apparently they want the city meeting because it helps the wagering with the Epsom Day. But as far as crowds go, I'm sure yesterday there was probably plenty of people in the Forum and the Atrium and some of those members joints there at Flemington, but it just felt like there was zero atmosphere, there was no one there, And if it's going to be like that, you might as well just run it on the Saturday and concede defeat to the AFL. Put the footy on, open the bars up, and you might get a few more that'll just go there and do that.
A good mate of mine come down from Sydney for the weekend, and he just went out to Flemington yesterday, and he sends me a text just before the last race. He's there having a schooner with Kieran Maher, or a pot, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So I don't know how that worked out, but
Good
on your motto, well done.
I had a pot with Kieran Maher sitting in Dubai. First time I ever met him. Went to the World Cup in maybe 2005, and he was over there. He was over there working for John Saddle or someone like that. You know, we had this big expat dinner. I think it was Mick Patton's missus' birthday, and we were there with like Mickey Lockett, a few people I know. He's in Singapore now, and said, "Come along, we get all these expats to be here." And we had Paddy Bett and I went. We had Kieran Maher sitting there and Kieran McAvoy sitting there. We had a great night. They were really good people. You know, it was great.
Before we launch sort of headlong into the carnival, we're going to do another sort of part of what we've done here. We've done a few sort of Q&A sessions with some interesting punters, so we thought we'd do the Q&A with DK today. So
Today's special guest,
There we go.
we're going to have we're going to go back to sort of where it all began for DK and sort of go through his journey and look back through that and where he is now and sort of how his business has evolved into what he's doing now. So
you mentioned a few times, DK, that your dad was a racing man. So, so what's your first memories of racing, and when did the real passion for it kick in for you?
Yeah, well, Dad's so my grandfather was a racing man. Dad was a racing man. I'm the oldest of five, and I got in the blood big time. But none of my other siblings did, so I got the triple, quadruple dose of it. You know, so. Yeah, I remember going to the races with Dad. Dad owned horses when we were kids and really young, you know, jump in the car and we'd go after Jerilderie, and I remember Jack Styring calling a race up there when I was 5 or 6 years old, and there's, like I said the other day, there's a photo on the wall at home with Dad holding me when I was about 3 or 4 winning a race at Colac. So we always had the photos on the wall around home, and Dad was a racing administrator. He was on the old Wood End Race Club Committee, which a lot of the older guys remember. There was a race track at Wood End and Mad Leaders track, and then he ended up being president of Kyneton Race Club. So I used to go with him to any race meeting I could, and all his horses were trained locally. So I'd go to track work with him, get up at 6 in the morning, go and watch him. But I remember going to the Wood End, last ever Wood End Cup was probably one of my earliest memories. Mum come and got me at midday. I went to school in the morning. I was 7 or 8, 1982, something like that. And ended up at the Wood End racetrack watching the last ever race meeting run there. And I remember the horse Sing Louis. Sing Louis won the cup, and I reckon A. Wilson or someone rode it. And so that's probably my earliest memory of growing up in the races. Yeah.
So that track's no longer there.
It's sort of there. You can walk around, but it's not there. But we used to live around the corner as kids. We used to run down there and play, but sort of got more old and decrepit. They just sort of barred it, you know. And the hanging rocks out the road, and Wood End merged with Kyneton. So so I sort of quite a racing area. We used to sell heralds as a kid at Hanging Rock, you know, and it was good. You'd sort of go to the newspaper guy about 3 or 4 o'clock and get a big bunch of heralds and 50 cents each or something, but people on the drink then, they'd say, here's $2, and the slings were big as a 10-year-old kid, you know, you'd have like 40 or 50 bucks worth of slings.
And they were massive meetings. I can remember myself as a young bloke going to some of these Hanging Rock meetings, and they were the biggest meetings I ever saw.
Yeah, they were really good.
They were enormous.
Yeah, that was great memories growing up in that area, and really a racing, you know, always at the races, always at the track work, just really involved, and I was still. Yeah,
so that was 1982, that Wood End Cup from the best. So what's the first Melbourne Cup you can remember?
Yeah, Dad, Kiwi the next year. Yeah. We're at Echuca. Remember that? Clearly, Echuca race on Melbourne Cup Day, and I was there and just heard this Kiwi coming down the outside in the blue colours or whatever it was, and that's my earliest memory.
Was it raining in Echuca like it was at?
No, it was 40 degrees or something.
It was the opposite.
Yeah, I remember always going to Echuca as a kid. It was always hot. Yeah. I did. The earliest memory, actually, I do remember the 1982, funny you should say that, what's grade 2. I used to, you know, I don't call it rort the sweep, but they're dealing with 6 and 7 year olds, so they say pick a number between 1 and 24. I had to glide out at home. I knew there was 2 8s, Kingston Town and Gurners Lane, and one of Dad's customers, Dad had the local produce store in Wood End, and Robert Sellers Jones, he was a part owner in Gurners Lane.
Oh, right.
So he sort of knew how it was going, so I knew Gurners Lane was number 9. And the guy was about 5th or 6th pick. I knew number 9 wasn't gone, so number 9 for me, please. So script the call. Yeah, it was all right. So that was my earliest memory of the Melbourne Cup. I think 7-year-olds don't know anything about racing. It's just a lottery. I knew what the favourite was.
Yeah. The first Melbourne Cup I went to, live was in 1982, and I went the next 7 or 8 in a row, whatever it was. Yeah, that's
Yeah, so and another story about Melbourne Cup, we went to Kevin McDermott, who's a good racing man. He had horses with the hauler hands and whatnot. Anyway, he had a big property out at Muralbark, and we got there and he said, Dan, you can run the book for me. And I didn't know what he said. Here's raffle tickets, give him a raffle ticket, write their bets down. He said, your halves in the wins and nothing in the losses. And I was 12 or 13. It was the year the big man, Empire Rose, 88. So I would have been 12 or 13. And he said, whatever you do not write Natski's name. He said, I've got a massive tip for Natski. The rest of the fun, Empire Rose was the big mare, everyone loved us, so every ticket was Empire Rose anyway. I said, mate, we'll just write these. I went to told him, I said, it takes out about 4,000, it doesn't matter, just keep putting them down. Anyway, so they've hit the line, as you know, famously, was Natski's body was in front of Empire Rose, but the big man stuck her nose out. And I remember Kev had the checkbook out for all the cash went out, and he was just writing checks for everyone. And it would have been worth it, it would have been. Natski stuck his bid out for a 12 or 13 year old, there might have been a couple of grand there, might have been huge anyway. So those sort of things happened all through my childhood. So it was.
That's a good lesson to learn as a young fellow, though. It's not all one-way traffic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. The bad beat there, but anyway, it didn't have to cost me anything, but it was a chance.
So you went to school in Melbourne and
Assumption College.
Where's it?
Yeah, Kilmore.
Oh, it's Kilmore, is it? Right. Sorry, that shows that my knowledge.
Yeah, no, it's about now North Melbourne. Yeah.
So as we all know, kids don't bet at school. So
you
had some interesting schoolmates by the sounds of it.
Yeah, well, it was Assumption College was, as people know, was a boarding school up at Kilmore. A lot of kids from the Riverina, and it was a real footy college.
Yeah.
Had a great history and a great footy coach, and with Ray Carroll. So so I got there, and my first orientation, there was this little blonde kid from Finley sitting over there, and a big kid from Mount Eliza. Got friends with them, and ended up being Grant Davies, who a lot of people know, and Shane Crawford. So became really close mates with them, and they loved one thing that brought us closer. We liked footy, but we loved racing.
Yeah.
So their parents loved racing, took them to the races, same as ones who were close there. And then the year above us, there was also a few blokes who loved racing, who now are big honchos at Crown.
They've kicked on a little bit,
That was
haven't they?
Matt Tripp and Tom Carroll, so and they loved their footy and racing as well. So it was really good. If you like footy and racing, it was a great place to be to spend those days at boarding school. So great times. I used to run the book, obviously, and I used to run the book after that story I told you. So I got buckled in year 10 badly. The boarding master called me in, and he had pages and pages of data. Zone 10:28, I could hear in the background the races on, and Dan Kelly riding bets, blah blah blah. He was going to suspend me, I got out of it. Anyway, went on in year 11. I thought I'd run the book again, and Matt Tripp and Tom were running the book in year 12. And anyway, Tom used to go up and play cricket every Saturday. And I must have been doing good business or betting a better product or something. I don't know if Best Tape was around then, but I might have been looking after the boys. And so he said to his guys, he said he was leaving in charge of the book, bet paper odds today, bet paper odds. And word got back to me in the year 11 dormitory, they're betting paper odds over in year 12. I said, are they? So I shut up shop, boys, let's get over there, here's a chance. So we went over there, and there was no TV in the school that then, so we had the wireless on. Flemington race 2, number 1, 350, paper, $17. 10 each way, please, Knackers, 10 each way. So Tom got back from the cricket about 6 o'clock from playing at Marsmore somewhere, and the boys had to tell me he'd done 2,000. So he got some reinforcements to the old man for that to fix that bill up, I think. But that was, so that was the memories they were great times there. And we used to go to the races. I remember brother Doug brought us down Caulfield Cup Day, meeting about 10 of us. And me and Corf and Grant were down there, and we nearly patted the hand across on the way down. We'd all had our 20 or 30 bucks on him, cheering him up. He was home when he went past us, and we couldn't believe he got beat. But so we used to go to the races and sneak up to the Kilmore, sneak out of class and get up to the Kilmore Race Club. Things like that. So it was still racing stuff, and desperate punters at the time, just betting off whatever.
And a good group that you still have a fair bit to do with now.
Well, the great thing about Assumption is a bit of a brotherhood.
Yeah.
So as you know, I mean, not proper names, but Cork's been really close mate for a long time. Was best man at the wedding, and Grant's a close mate, and I used to still in touch with a lot of other guys, including Matt and Tom and people like that. So there's a bit of a brotherhood around. The Assumption thing, we have reunions and whatnot.
So with an upbringing like that, an education like that, there was probably no other path but end up in the racing industry somehow, I suppose.
Yeah, and it was how to find my way there. And so I ended up going to the casino as a young bloke and getting sort of gambling, or sort of wasn't, how to get jobs at the races, but so I ended up at the casino and doing blackjack as a dealer and whatnot, and working my way up there. But
how long had the casino been open before at that stage, DK?
Not long.
Was that still at the old one at the World Trade Centre before they moved
I
all
went
the
in there,
way
and
south
the bloke I went to school with was a pit boss there, Gerard Robertson, and he said, mate, get a job here. And so they just moved over. It was they opened in 93 or 94.
Yeah.
And we started in the new complex in 97 when I got
Okay.
there. So I started as a roulette dealer or a blackjack dealer and worked my way up into the mahogany room as a supervisor. That was good, but at the same time I'd found my way to Caulfield Footy Club through one way or another. A group of us Assumption guys who were out of school come and play there, and it was a great footy club and they were having a bit of success at the time. Really ramped up and we won a premiership there, which was fantastic. And but I got to know some really good racing people, and like Mick Edibuttle, the Edibuttle family. A lot of people would know Kev Edibuttle, who used to do the photos, and Kaz, and Mick, who's a great racing family, and Gary Craddy, who's the president, heavily tied up with Colin Little. And I met the great Paddy Beck. He was a supporter around the club, and
He's a friend of the show. Hello, Paddy.
Yeah, Paddy.
Well, I met Mick yesterday too. He's a champion.
Yeah, Mick. Yeah. So and I met this guy Paddy, who used to just love the races. Used to go to the races all the time, go to the country meetings and things like that. So I said, I like the races too. And I bum a ride one day, and so got chummy with Paddy, and he used to work at the races and then go into state to the races and work some joints at carnivals. So he took me up to the Darwin Cup, threw me on the bag there. We went to the Cairns Amateurs, threw me on the bag there. And that was great, I just love it. I said, I've got to get out of this because then I have to go back and work at the casino. And one spring carnival I had to do a double header, so go to the races, spring carnival, and then do night shift at Crown.
Oh, that'd be
And then he'd pick me up at 9 in the morning and go back to the Melbourne Cup, or something like
Yeah,
that. Where I
say Melbourne Cup Day into the casino and then off to
back
Clyde on Cup Day.
I was just too much, we've got to get out of here, And so I found, anyway, John Dow was looking for a baggie on the front lawn Oakstone one year. So Dan jumped on the bag. I couldn't believe it, how big it was. It was just one of them, was still when the front lawn was great.
Yeah.
And they were just lining up, just to throw money at you.
As soon as they went past the post, you went straight up with the next lot of prices and you didn't stop writing tickets.
And the payout was around the back,
Yep.
so it was, and he just said, he said, grab the notes, but you've got to look after the ladies. So if they're fumbling around with their 5 each way, 2 each way, you can't, but you see it like a 50 or 100, and just go, yes mate, 50 on one, yes, what would you like, 2.5, 2 each way, niggas, make it 2.5 each way, give us 5, we can do that, Just all that little
How
things.
many bookies were out on the front lawn?
I reckon there's 4 or 5.
Yeah,
just
it was
in one row.
it was
in one row on the front lawn. It was just massive.
Back in those days, like there's probably more there now. It used to be like they were some of the hardest pitches to get, those ones out on the front lawn, and there was 4 or 5 of them, and they were enormous.
I've got memories of the first cup I went to was 82, and so just say that's the winning post, and they go out at the straight there. There used to be another ring over there.
Yeah, there's still a ring there. It's called the Elms.
There's the Elms. That was at the other end. This was down the other end. This is about the
they're at about they're in between the 2 and the 300.
Yeah. So with age, because I was only young, things can look bigger than they were. But I'd swear there was like 30 bookies.
Yeah, there was.
No doubt.
And then there was like 100 in the main ring.
Yeah, they were everywhere.
It was funny. Another friend of the show, who we better send. We'll do this now. Friend of the show, he was on here with us the other week, Mickey Harrick. Mickey's not well at the minute, so we just want to wish you to get well soon, Mickey. We're all thinking of you. Get better soon. Hopefully you can pull yourself together and you might be back on track for Guineas Day next week. But get better soon, Mickey. He had an old race book that he was showing me from Flemington, and we mentioned him a minute ago, Brian Mann, who is the biggest bookie here now on the rails. He was in the 3rd ring at that stage. There was the main ring, and there was the rails and 3 rows off the fence. Then there was the Elms, and then there was another one up where the tavern is now, called the Hill Ring, and he was up there on the hill out the back at Flemington. So there would have been 300 bookies or something there at that stage like that. Yeah, you're right, they were massive. And as getting back to it, those front lawn pitches, one of the guys who gave me my start, we only got out there after they redeveloped it, and it wasn't as big as what it used to be, but it was massive. So
that was the day with the cardboard tickets and the crayons, and they were just like it was amazing.
And the Clarks in those days were just so talented. It was the day of the era of the real good bookies.
The big ledger books.
Yeah, and then they'd know exactly what's going on.
What's next taken out. Yeah. You would have also been in there though, DK, when something that I'm involved in now, when the first lot of computers came through and all that, and then that made it
the decimals,
much easier.
We went from the odds to the decimals, to the dollar dividends, which was, remember starting off trying to explain it to people and things like that was early 2000s, must have been now, something like that.
What year do you reckon the first computer boards would have been?
They came
early 2000s.
98. 98 was when Winning Odds kicked off. It was. One thing I remember about that time, Dan, when we went from Imperials to Decimals was someone would come up and have $10 on something at $3, and they come back and you'd give them the $30, and you've gone, hang on, no, you've ripped me off here. I've had 10 at 3 to 1, and you've gone, sorry mate, you haven't, you've had 10 at $3.
Even now, they don't understand deductions and things. If you've robbed them, I said, mate, there's things I've scratched the barrier or did, Anyway.
I can remember back in like the mid-80s or early 80s, when I used to try and back 3 horses in a race, I'd be like really pedantic about it, you know what I mean? So if I had, say, $30 on my top pick, I'd want to have $17. You got to have $17 at 7 to 2 or 15 to 4 or something. Yeah. Some of the bookies would just go, no, but straight away they'd get minds with like, some of them would go, what's that, man? Look at the card.
I remember here one day, and I don't think I was even 18, and DK definitely remember him. David Cox used to bet on the rails on the interstate. He was Charlie Cox's son, he was a big bookie, and he had 2 elderly bagmen. One was a payout clerk and one was on the bag. And old Joe, who was on the bag, loved me, and I was betting in $1 and $2 coins, like just had nothing. And I remember after back in things, I had 4 or 5 small payouts in a row. The old bloke on the payout said, next week, son, go to the pictures. He goes, you're driving me mad here. Because of course back in those days, he wasn't used to paying out my $1.60. He was used to paying out $1,600 and things like the bigger stuff.
It was part of the theatre of racing back then. They're like, if a really well-backed favourite, say a 6 to 4 chance, would come back into the ring, and the payout queues were separate from where the bookies were, and there'd be this like line 100 deep of people trying to collect on the favourite, and everyone would be talking, and
that's it.
Or the other thing, the Raw when a favourite won interstate, because they were all in the ring watching them on the thing, and if something lobbed in at a short price, or it was a Melbourne horse up there that had been back, there was a Raw. So, and he's a friend of mine too, so you got a gig with Johnny Dow.
Johnny Dow, and then I was lucky. What really got me going was Anthony Dowdy had said to John Dow at some stage, a young bloke who wants to, and Anthony was a great educator of young guys in the races. He ran the Clark schools and things like that. So I got a gig with Anthony part-time, just working on Saturdays and things like that. But he threw me on the bag, then he threw me on the buttons, and then I was on the ground, which was a great education on the ground, learning the heads, doing the bet backs, using your own instinct. You'd come back and he'd say, go and take $9 this, and all the $9, he said, back to win 20,000 or something, and he'd come back and say, oh, all the $9 is gone, dude. Well, what have you done? I haven't done anything. What? Just go, get off the thing. The next thing it'll be $6.50, and he hasn't got off. You've got to use your nous and educate. So that was good. And the other thing with Anthony was that he was a bit of he's a form bookie.
Yes.
And
Still
so,
is.
Yeah, and he used to do the form on the metros, but he loved having a little pickle in the country maidens. And he used to buy the videos we spoke about the other week that you could buy with all the week's videos and things like that. So he'd say, oh, what price is knackers at Moe, things like that, race 2 Dan. I'd say, and he'd go and he'd have 600, 800 on, just like to pin something there.
Yeah.
So I asked him where he got the videos from, and so I started purchasing them and started, just watching them at home by myself on the TV and making notes of horses who had no luck and caught wide and waiting for they were in again, and then I'd be having to, start backing them and things like that. And so that peak got me going in the form.
I'll just tell you what, a quick one, DK, because I bet you know all about it, but I fell into that trick yesterday. I didn't even know it was in, but I'd seen one of Matt Laurie's trial or jump out recently. While they wine, I saw it in Bairnsday, so I thought, well, this should be odds on surely, so I tore into it yesterday and got burned.
Yeah, I'd tried all good. It was the one where I had the day off yesterday and I saw it made second on the short odds. That's one I avoided there. But so that was good. And then I needed to go. I was still at the casino at the time doing the double headers and things. And I needed to go to the casino, and Simon Beasley was just starting.
Yep.
He was one of my heroes when I was a kid, Beasley. And I think Paddy was doing something with him and that. And anyway, he offered me a full-time job. I was coming in as a bookie, needed staff.
And he was going every day.
He was going hard. He was going every day and going hard. So that was good. I got resigned from the casino. So I said, sorry, Anthony. I went up and resigned from AD, and of course AD said, oh, if you wanted a full-time job, just have asked me. I thought you were sweet at the casino. Well, I'd never probably complained. So that was too late. But anyway, so I did one spring carnival boozer that, I don't know if you were there, it was absolute chaos, And I was on the front buttons with Beasley, it was pretty full-on pressure. And at the end of the lesson...
What year was that?
Maccabi and Maccabi Divas, Maccabi was his first one or something like that.
So what's that?
I would have said early 2000s.
Yeah, and I said, so I went up and checked the figure with AD. I said, I'd had enough. And I went and checked the figure with AD, and I said, you don't need to start member reporting to the bloke. He said, you can come along if you want. So I went and worked for AD, and I went back. So I said, sorry, Beasley, it's not for me. And I went back to Anthony. And then lasted him for a few years, which is good. You work 5 days a week,
Yeah.
going to the races, all the country meetings, knew where all the pie shops were and bakeries and everything.
yeah.
It's just great and learned, watching races. And then I worked for Winbet for a while, full time. They came in and they went pretty hard. They were good guys, Paul Johnson and whatnot. And then I decided to go up the punt. I was working 1 or 2 days a week for them and had to go up the punt. And then decided to get married. Can't really sell being a part-time punter thing to the in-laws. So at the time, Mark Reed, I saw an ad for an analyst stroke trader for Mark Reed, who was at IAS, and they were down in Melbourne by this time at the Rialto. So I went in there and he said, what can you do? I said, I'll do my own little video comments and things like that. And I'm just, a bit of hunger to learn and things like that. So he got a job there, and he started off doing video comments on Hong Kong. And
So how many staff did you have in Melbourne at that stage?
I had a lot. I had a good team. No more than 100.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so the only job interview you had to get that job was with Mark.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing, isn't it?
That's right. He just wanted to. He liked. He wanted.
Hands on.
Yeah, but hands on. So he just bought out Fern Court at that time, the manuals.
Yeah.
For one reason or another, so I sat down. He said, "Here's the manual of the way they do their video comments." And so I used to sit there. All the boys are whacking away on Saturdays, on the big races here, and I'm sitting there trying to video comment 120 horses from Happy Valley and Shark Chin. And it was a real grind, but it's what stood me in bloody good stead now. It's one of my edges now.
Yeah.
So what did he buy off Ferncourt?
Everything, all their IP.
Database, everything.
Yeah, and they had a non-compete and had to go out and everything. I don't know if it was I can't beat you so I'll buy you sort of thing, or I think it was something like that, but it could have been, but I don't really know. Other people know more than me.
So how long did you do the Hong Kong stuff?
I reckon for a good 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And then I got my way up, starting on the little meetings on the Mondays and whatnot, and sort of got into doing the sort of I got up to about doing Thursdays or something.
Yeah. So just before you go on, so when you were doing those video comments for Hong Kong and everything else, did you find it similar to Australian racing, different? I think it was helped you. Like, I know you're probably only doing the video comments and then leaving.
Yeah, so I wasn't doing any form.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how they graded them and all this sort of thing, and I did have a couple of bets, and I probably, it was unlucky last day, flashing light, and I didn't have much success doing that, just trying to pick the eyes out of them. But it was really competitive.
Yeah.
It was really competitive racing, bunch finishes and things like that. And
that is the signature of Hong Kong racing.
Yeah, very well, and very well graded.
Yeah.
See? Yeah. So, but the other thing was that the great Gerard Toomey was up in Darwin at the time, but he was doing the form on Hong Kong and doing some other video comments.
Yeah.
He was doing the other half that I wasn't doing, so he used to be able to bounce off him a bit and if I ever had a query. So that was the start of it. And if you've anyone knows Gerard, he's one of the cleverest guys and one of the greatest minds. And
speaking of great educators, GT would be one of the amount of young blokes that he's taught over the years is just unbelievable. There's plenty of guys that are in the game now that he's a bit of a father figure amongst a lot of the industry, and everyone loves him.
He's always any query, anything you bounce off, or just learn like Lamborn. The stuff he tells you sticks in the back of your mind, and you use it to build your own IP sort of thing.
Well, that Hong Kong type racing where it's very well graded, usually solid tempos and narrow margins. The riders are so important.
Yeah.
The riders there, they know which horses to get on and stuff.
Yeah, and they were using the comments to sort of, so the comments are associated with closing speed and positioning running and things like that. So you comment on closing speed equals a sectional.
Yeah.
So it had to be accurate, otherwise Mark could cross them out and say, no, it's flat on the line, it's not, running through the line, so you get corrected. They're betting big, off, like Mark says, Mark's sort of brass Australian racing and himself.
Yeah.
And left it to the boys to run and was off blasting away in Hong Kong big, so they were betting big money and doing the form and all and things like that. So it was there's a bit of pressure to get it right. You weren't just put them in straight after the race and don't worry about it. You had to get your closing speed equal the speed. Is it your comment, your last word equals a sectional sort of thing,
That's a great background, great education.
Yeah, it was. And then I got on to learning the form. Yeah, which was another good thing.
The provincial and country meetings?
Yeah, doing the provincial and country meetings, betting. And was in those days we had a system called Thunderbet, so there was no risk department or anything. You set your own, so you put your prices up, and then you adjusted the risk on each horse as time went by. So the couple you really liked, you put 2,000 risks on them, and the ones you don't like, you put 10 on them. With 15 minutes to go, and then 3 or 4 minutes to go, you open the risks up, or Bartholomew's or someone back one, you turn it off and try and go with them and things like that. It was a real trade and sort of thing, which then obviously the buyout occurred with Paddy Power and Sportsbet.
That's what gets me though, DK, is that that model you're talking about produced produced the revenue and the profits that attracted companies like Paddy Power and the William Hill, all the other people to buy them, and then all they've done is come in and
Just
virtually chuck that model
yeah.
out, said no, this is how we're going to do it.
It was. I mean, we got. I think the Irish. We sort of told them. We had a great team of guys. Still there, really clever blokes, good traders, and made a lot of money external punting.
Yeah.
And we showed them obviously that as we came in. They came in with the full-on UK model, and they trialled it for a while. It was all right, and I had a bit of success external punting in the new system, but it was just all going towards pumping up the risk department, getting the trading all automated, and just doing product, using the traders to put up product, and that was it.
It's worth remembering a few of the guys you mentioned there earlier, Matty Tripp and Tom Carroll, was Matt's father, Alan, who started that original model. He went to Vanuatu, and they had massive holes.
Massive holes. There's no form motor, but I think it was all playing.
No, they were getting the prices off.
Getting the prices off. Yeah.
But Sportsbet were the original purchasers of that, and moved it to Darwin. So and they paid Sporting Bet. They paid an absolute fortune for it. That must have been like early 2000s or something. It might have been a bit after that. But
there was another thing that happened around that time too, DK, that really slowed things down was after they sold the Tassie Tote. There was a lot of money was getting tipped back into the Tassie Tote because everyone was getting the rebate, especially the corporates. They were for those that don't know, Dan and I worked together for 2.5 years or something while I was there. I was doing harness and greyhounds and then moved into US sport, and Dan was on the racing desk, and we all had license that if you don't hesitate to throw some back into the tote pool, especially on the trots and dogs, that was a huge part of my job, was just tipping it back in there because you were betting them the tote products, and we were all copping the rebate, and that helped the money go round and round and round in a circular fashion. Like, as you say, Sean or Kingsley would back one, then you try and back it back somewhere else, and then whoever was left with it at the desk just chucked it back into the tote pool, and it helped, but it helped everyone get on. And when that
well, every year now, Jumpy, the tote pools collectively are diminishing.
Yeah.
So
when that sort of slowed up, that's when the shutters really went up, wasn't it? That was also part of the time when they said, right, there's no more betting for the joint.
And a lot of the tapes said there's no more rebates.
Yeah.
There's bugger all rebates now. I think you'll find that even the big syndicates are on minuscule, if any.
Yeah.
So you did that. So you did the provincial. How long did you do the provincial in the country?
Yeah, I did that. So with up till in the buyout, and then the buyout. So came across to Sportsbet, and then sort of got my way up to doing the metros, which is really good. And sort of had Jared to bounce off. Did some big carnival days there and things like that, which was good. But again, it was still but it was just putting the price up, turning the prices off. With the trading finished and things like that, and so came my son Isaac. Isaac was born 4 years ago. September, and so he was only 4 or 5 months old, and I was getting a 38, 39, and I sort of had a good year punting there. I thought I might have been looked after a bit better than what I was, but just the way it was. So I sort of more out of spite, a little bit out of spite, but everything I just said, oh bloody hell, I'm resigning and going to take a leap of faith, and if it goes tits up, it goes tits up. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, as they say. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no money, I had nothing. I snipped my missus. So I said, I'm going to have a go punting here, So I just went back to what I did. I just got hair.
That could have ended in tears.
Oh no! I don't know. What can you do? I'll just do my video comments. What I started, and just black book some horses.
I remember you had a pad, something like this, and Dick had notes all over, and he showed me backing winners left, right, centre, and just doing.
Yeah, that. I just went from zero to like this in the first 6 or 7 weeks. I got it was typical. Always that first. So this is going all right. So this is good. And then I bought Daniel O'Sullivan's GTX. I knew the handwriting wasn't going to work. I needed something to put them in. So I used that, and that was good, being able to log in there and you can get some prices off that. And so I kept ticking along all right there. And so that sort of, I survived the first year, won something, or this was all right. Still got to evolve. And I was at Justin Griffith's engagement party, and Johnny Mack was there, Johnny McLeod, the late Johnny Mack. And he said to me, "Oh, you want to have a look at this ratings to win database? This might suit you.
Yeah.
You know, the point system that Reed used to use and things like that. There's a bit of that. There are similarities and things like that." And so I had a look at it and ended up buying that, which is good. So put my video comments in there, and then they've got some speed figures and ratings in there, and so that's been a work in progress. I've just spent the last 2 or 3 years educating myself there, trying to win, still learning, and this bloke here has been a great thing meeting you, Pots, because I've learned so much of you even in the last six to much I've met you, that's even helped me even more. You know?
Yeah, but it works both ways. I mean, it's really good. You've said a lot of times, they're there down in our bunkers. They can become a bit isolated, and so every now and again it's really good to talk to someone else that's got the same sort of passion, and you get ideas of each other. I pick up heaps of ideas from you, and it really does. It freshens you up.
Yeah.
To get that.
Yeah. So.
I mean, there's a time you've got to have your own niche and do what you do.
Yeah.
You know, because we're all different. There's not just one. There's so many different ways to skin a cat. But it's
that's
good.
it.
You can get stale if you don't.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, that's one thing we sort of learned last week. And one of the boys, like there was 25 or 30 blokes there at the Recreational Punters Society, and all of them getting earned, and there's no 2 of them would do the same thing.
No, that's it.
Everyone's got their own little way of doing it, and what suits them, and what you're comfortable with, and it sort of doesn't matter what size you're betting. It's as long as you're there, you're doing your best, and you just keep fronting up.
And it's like I said to my visit, it's like golf. It's like you can't perfect it, and you're constantly learning. You can't perfect it.
No.
You know, so there's always, as soon as you get going right, hitting the ball well, then you have your bad run comes, which you just can't beat, you know. But as long as you stick, I had a bad week last week, but the things I was backing all shortened, you know, and they were getting beat, but those shorts I've lost, you know. But I was pretty content with the way I lost it, you know. I said, okay, you know, a couple of weeks ago those things were hitting the line, this week they're not, you know. But anyway, so here we are, so.
It's a great journey, and I just think my advice to the punters out of what DK just said is if you have a really good run, you think you've got the game beat, you are just at your most vulnerable right at that point. That's when you'll get your pants pulled down. So I just warn against the ever feeling like you've got it.
We all know that. The gambling gods, they get the wrath sometimes. I say, thank you for that one, and then they'll turn on you. But anyway. I'm very lucky at what I do, but we don't take it for granted, you know. You know, you never know the time when we have to go back and get a job. We hope we don't have to, but we look after our families and things. But
I remember you telling me when you first resigned from Sportsbet and you started punting for yourself, and then just thereafter the Northern Territory canned the minimum bet.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was good.
It'd be a great relief to you to have the new.
Yeah, that's right.
To know that there's a level of comfort that you're going to be able to do this for, you know.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. And I've done it for my 4th year now.
Yeah.
So I can see I've got to continue to evolve and improve, but I've got some sort of edge.
Yeah.
And which I can whack away at, you know, and that's the key. Whacking away at your edge is what keeps you long-term profitable.
One of the things we discussed with Richie that Juppy brought up on that show is about the amount of racing. I think what Richie said on that show that he really likes it because it suits their computer model and everything else, but I thought about it after. He's probably right. Probably part of the edge we get is that we pick a part of the puzzle that we specialise in. So you do the maidens and that end, and I go the other end of it. And because we really know every horse in that puzzle really well, it gives us a chance to get an edge over the big mobs that are doing everything.
I remember trading at Reed's. And your bets punters, that was the thing. You played the hots, you got the bonuses were how well you traded versus the hot clients. And I remember Bartholomew, you know, so I'd be betting on 2 races, 2 meetings on a Sunday. I remember it was a Echuca Cup and a Stony Creek Cup. They're always on the same day, something like that.
Yeah, they used to be. They moved them there,
Yeah, and like I said, you know, back to first favourites at my over, it went 2s on. And I had a big lead on him. And then by race 8 and both times, wore me down. I just knew that those blokes will beat you over 100 races. It's like the same as Jelko's. They'll beat you over 100 races, 1,000 races, every race. But if I can do more work on this little pool of horses and these maidens and your Metro, then I can hold my own and get my edge, you know.
Yeah, don't give them any low-hanging fruit to pick because they'll get it every time, like a Pac-Man, you know.
Yeah, that was sort of, as we mentioned, with the minimum bet rules. Boys, I know it's only a couple of days in, but have you boys had any issues, or have you?
I got the email. Yeah, I got the email from Ladbrokes. You know, give us the whole bodily extraction thing. So that's not good. And that was the only one I've tried. So I I was looking forward to depositing into 365 and a few others.
I think Ladbrokes and William Hill are going to be the most difficult.
Yes.
That's what I can gather. But the rest are going to, if you're having issues, you just got to contact Racing Victoria or send it in the jumping, you'll forward onto them, and I think they'll, you'll get there.
Yeah, you'll get there. Yeah.
But you'll have to work a bit. So one of our good friends, Rexy, he's told me he's having a few dramas with a couple of those organisations, but you just got to persist, Rexy, and they've sort of got no choice. But
they want you to go away. That's the point of it.
They'll try and get you to go away.
Yeah.
It's that's one I've got to deal with this week. One of the rails bookies, Freddie Watts, he had all fixed odds taken off his Ladbrokes account, and he even said, "What about the minimum bet rules?" And they said, "Well,
yeah, it's only
thanks,
that
but no
we
thanks."
go, and it's his wheels, as we know. It's to make people go away.
Yeah.
There's nothing behind it other than to make you go away.
So hopefully they can sort of come around and start playing.
I've got the email from when I opened my account and my save to say about the verification. Yes, you've ticked off the 100 points.
Yeah.
And now you get these emails. Oh no, we're having fraud issues. You know, go and here, give us 500 points worth of identification so we may open your account again, please.
Well, if it helps.
And all their signs are all over this joint here. Look at this. You can't even get a bet on with it.
If it helps, I've known Dan for a while, so I'm happy to verify that is Dan and that's
Here he is.
Here it was.
So, that's not enough.
Sitting at home doing my best.
I laugh every week when because I don't actually. I won't go in, but I don't actually do any betting directly with the tab anymore. It's a bit of a pain in the neck. I'll do it through another crowd. But where I live, I look out the window and there's the tab building right next door to me. There's a whole building full of them. There's me with a laptop sitting at the desk, and they're worried about me. I just think it's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, what are they worried about?
Well, thanks for your time today, DK.
Yeah, hopefully, something there. Might be some young guys some guys get in contact with me on Twitter and that, and they're asking about how they go about it. But just finding your way and just trial and error. And when you're young, just learn, because when you get older and you get kids and you get families, and
it's much harder.
Yeah, if you can be prepared and got a good something going, it's a lot harder to pump when you've got commitments. So if you can get it right before you.
It's a great story, and there's no better way to make a living. And I think
very, very blessed.
The story you're telling now, and the one you told the other week about the young boy with the two twins.
Yeah, the different paths they took.
It's just really,
that was a great story. He just stayed at home learning off Mark Landlord.
We've said a few times, this industry's got so much to offer.
Well, that was the point of that.
It's great to be.
It's out there.
To be everything that it could be. You know what I mean? And for all of the various bodies doing everything they can to get young people involved in it. It's incredibly rewarding.
And I suppose to the younger people of today now too, guys, the Twitter and social media is their old betting ring. Like, you can still come out here. If you come out here to most of the meetings, there's plenty of people that'll be happy to talk to you, that'll tell you what they're doing, how they go about it, all the bookies. Well, there's a few punters that still get here that are happy to chat. And the thing is, if you can't do that, then talk. If you can find the smarter guys on Twitter and just get in touch with them, more often than not, they're only too happy to help you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
All right. Well, that'll just about do us for part one. We're going to have a review of the
meeting this
weekend.
We'll talk about the emails.
And we've got a couple of emails, so we'll talk about them. We might just look at we'll pick the eyes out of the pots. We'll do the group races and things that we might get something out of going forward.
Yeah.
Thanks, DK.
Okay, thanks, Rod. That was good.
We'll be back with part 2 in a minute.